welcome to those here at the Academy and those joining us virtually online live streaming. I am Andrea Avazian and honored to serve as the MC for today. We will be inaugurating the 45th Mayor of Northampton, Ms. Gina Louise Shara, and administering the oath of office to other elected officials. I am grateful to be here today with so many dignitaries and their families, and thankful that so many people can join us here and virtually. And maybe you are, like I am, grateful to turn the page on 2021 and take a new, deep breath. Today's celebration is historic in a number of ways. Days after the election, the Daily Hampshire Gazette wrote an article with the title, "Northampton Election Breaks the Mold." They got that right. Let me mention a few milestones. Beginning today, two women, Jamila Gore and Marissa Elkins, will serve at large on the City Council for the first time in Northampton's history. Over the past 52 years, all but four at-large councilors were men. And 3 of the 4 women ever elected at large were later elected mayor: Mary Ford, Claire Higgins, and today, Gina Louise Shara. Each of those women having served as City Council president prior to being elected mayor. Jamila Gore and Marissa Elkins also tilt the gender balance on the City Council to majority female for the first time in more than 20 years. The only other time that the City Council was majority female was in 1998, the year that longtime Ward 6 Councilor Mary Ann Labarge took office. An important first. Jamila Gore is the first African-American woman ever elected to the Northampton City Council. She and Garrick Perry, newly elected in Ward 4, will be the City Council's 2nd and 3rd African-American members ever. Garrick Perry was elected to replace John Thorpe, the Council's first African-American member, who declined to seek a second term. Women rose up, ran, and won in impressive numbers this election. Northampton voters chose 9 women for the 10-member school committee, swapped out a male incumbent with a female newcomer on the Smith Vocational and Agricultural High School Board of Trustees, and chose a woman for the position of elector under the will of Oliver Smith. Today, as Gina Louise Shara becomes mayor, she is making history in a rather significant way. For the first time since 1980, the mayor of Northampton will have a name other than David or Mary. For the past 41 years, our city's mayors have been David Narkowitz, Mary Claire Higgins, Mary Ford, and David Musanti. And prior to David Musanti, Harry Chapman served as mayor, preceded by David Kramer. And while the Gazette got it right, this election broke the mold in many ways. Today, we continue the long tradition in this city of effective, responsive, democratically elected local government, and we cannot take that for granted. And so welcome to this historic ceremony. We gather today to conduct official city business and to celebrate the peaceful transfer of power and start a new chapter in the history of our city. And now, Susu Min Aung, a naturalized citizen who received assistance from the Center for New Americans, will lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flags of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you, Susumin. And now to offer the invocation, I would like to invite to the podium the Reverend Dr. Peter Ives, who was senior minister of the First Churches of Northampton from 1989 until 2010, and Ms. Jenny Fleming Ives, nurse midwife and reproductive health clinician at Tapestry in Northampton. Peter and Jenny.
In the silence of this moment, we give thanks for the land on which we stand, here on the banks of the Connecticut River and the Holyoke Range, the ancestral homeland of Native American people, the Pocumtuck to the north, the Nipmuc to the east, the Agawam to the south, the Mohegan to the west, and the Nonotuck on the land we now stand. This unceded land was home to Native people until Europeans came from New Haven, Connecticut, and Boston in 1654, creating a new settlement here known today as Northampton, named after the city of Northampton in England. The first building built here was called the Meeting House for the town. It stood on the corner of King and Main Street, where you can still see the commemorative plaque today. The Meeting House was to be a place for worship on Sundays and a place for discussion, argumentation, and debates the other days to discern the mind of the town. It was the beginning of what we now call the City Council meeting. So at the moment, we give thanks for all our elected officials and public servants who have served our city these past 368 years, and especially those public servants who were elected to public office this November, to whom we extend our deepest thanks for their willingness to serve at this time. So may the hopes and dreams of all the people of Northampton, Florence, and Leeds be honored here today. No matter what our race, color, nationality, gender, religion, age, level of education, or sexual orientation. In 1966, the late Robert Kennedy said to all of us, "Let us all send forth tiny ripples of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of resistance and build a better world for us all." May this be our deepest prayer today. We are all blessed to be living in one of America's greatest cities, the city of Northampton, right here on the banks of the Connecticut River and the Holyoke Range.
And for you, Gina Louise Shera, on this auspicious day, as you are inaugurated as the 45th mayor of the city of Northampton, the third woman to hold this office, we give thanks. And we honor the cloud of unseen witnesses surrounding you at this time, most especially your parents, Dr. Daniel Shera and Regina Shera, and your father-in-law, William Shera Sr., and your family gathered here today, all of whom have given you the love, support, and respect that have brought you to this moment. Blessings on them and on you, now and in all the days ahead. Amen.
Thank you so much. Newly elected officials, your elected status began on the day when you filed nomination papers with City Clerk Pamela Powers. Today, Ms. Powers is here to finalize the election process by administering the oath of office to all those individuals who were chosen by the voters to serve our community.
First of all, congratulations to all of the elected officials. I'd like to ask that Gina Louise Sierra step forward. Ready for this? I'm very honored to be doing this today. I need you to repeat after me, okay? I, Gina Louise Sierra,
I, Gina Louise Shara,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts
to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts
and will support the Constitution thereof.
and will support the Constitution thereof.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I, Gina Louise Sierra,
I, Gina Louise Shara,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all of the duties
all of the duties
incumbent upon me as mayor of the city of Northampton,
all of the duties incumbent upon me as mayor of the city of Northampton,
according to the best of my abilities
according to the best of my abilities,
and agreeably to the rules and regulations
and agreeably to the rules and regulations
of the Constitution and laws of the Commonwealth,
of the Constitution and laws of the Commonwealth,
the Charter,
the Charter,
ordinances,
ordinances,
and the rules of the city of Northampton.
and the rules of the city of Northampton.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I, Gina Louise Sierra,
I, Gina Louise Shara,
do solemnly swear and affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. At this time, I would like to ask the newly elected at-large and ward councilors to step forward. I think I will ask them to take their oath from their standing positions where they are. So that's probably better than try to squeeze them all in up front. So the plan will be for me to make the statement, the oath, and I ask that you all raise your right hand, repeat after me, and insert your name where, in fact, I indicate so. Okay. I, please state your name. Solemnly swear and affirm. To faithfully and impartially. Discharge and perform. The duties of the office. To which I have been elected. In accordance with. The Constitution of this Commonwealth. The Charter. Ordinances. And the rules of the city of Northampton. To the best of my knowledge and ability. Congratulations. I would now like to ask members of the school committee to please rise. I should note that there are a few missing members today, but we will get them sworn in at a later time. I'm just going to ask you to raise your right hand for me, please, and insert your name where I indicate so. I, please state your name. Solemnly swear and affirm. To faithfully and impartially. Discharge and perform. The duties of the office. To which I have been elected. In accordance with. The Constitution of the Commonwealth. The Charter. Ordinances. And the rules of the City of Northampton. To the best of my knowledge and ability. Congratulations. I'll now ask the superintendents of Smith's Agricultural School to please rise. I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand and repeat after me and indicate your name where I say. I, please state your name. Solemnly swear and affirm. To faithfully and impartially. Discharge and perform. The duties of the office. To which I have been elected. In accordance with. The Constitution of the Commonwealth. The Charter. Ordinances. And the rules of the City of Northampton. To the best of my knowledge and ability. Congratulations. I would now like to ask the trustees, under the will of Charles E. Forbes, to please rise. I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand, repeat after me, and insert your name where I indicate. I, please state your name. Solemnly swear and affirm. To faithfully and impartially. Discharge and perform. The duties of the office. To which I have been elected. In accordance with. The Constitution of this Commonwealth. The Charter. Ordinances. And the rules of the City of Northampton. To the best of my knowledge and ability. Congratulations. And finally, the elector under the Oliver Smith will. Please, thank you, raising your right hand and repeat after me. I, Mary Odgers,
I, Mary Odgers,
solemnly swear and affirm
solemnly swear and affirm
to faithfully and impartially
to faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
to which I have been elected,
to which I have been elected,
in accordance with
in accordance with
the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
the Constitution of this Commonwealth,
the Charter,
the Charter,
ordinances,
ordinances,
and the rules of the City of Northampton,
and the rules of the cities of Northampton,
to the best of my knowledge and ability.
to the best of my knowledge and ability.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, and thank you so much, Pamela. I am now delighted to invite our Northampton Poet Laureate, Karen Schofield, to come to the podium next. Karen Schofield's book, Battle Dress, won the 2020 Massachusetts Book Award in Poetry and the Barnard Women Poets Prize. Her book, Frost in the Low Areas, won the 2014 Penn New England Award in Poetry. Ms. Schofield is a U.S. Army veteran and teaches writing to engineers at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. In 2019, Ms. Schofield began a 3-year term as the Northampton Poet Laureate. Ms. Schofield.
Thank you.
As a poet, I have no real idea what a mayor does. But I like to think, well, here's what I envision. There's a lot of meetings. You listen to your constituents. Sometimes you dispense advice, and then you have to reflect a lot on the things that you've done that day. So I wanted to read a poem that included a time where I tried to dispense some advice, and then I had to do a lot of reflecting. This is called Chaperone. Nets around the farm's pond, the kids cast, drag the bottom for damselfly nymphs, dragonfly, snails, the boatmen rowing the hopeful canoe of themselves through the water. What the kids catch, they scoop with spoons, put into pails, crouch in the easy crouching of third graders, while the adults stand and shiver in a spring rain. In one deft cast, Elena nets a bullfrog tadpole, 2 crayfish, coin of the realm. Elena's queen of the pond, and we bend knees before her bucket. The nets stop their dip and pearl. Unless the next haul includes octopus, no one's topping this. I want to name them, Elena says. I say, maybe they already have names, but why do I stop her? What adult impulse to keep the wild unnamed? The crayfish don't care what words we mutter over them, if we call them cray-cray or Carlos or Pinchy or nothing or fluffy or English or Spanish or their Latin cambaride, or if we speak in the voices of children or birds or rain sheeting or wonder or disillusion or farm in the distance or mist. If we speak in anything besides raccoon or pollution or habitat destruction or rising temperatures or student housing or parking lot or shopping mall or fertilizer runoff or casual cruelty or willed ignorance, the crayfish do not care. When Elena tips the bucket into the pond, the crayfish do not care, except in the way that every living thing knows it's been given back its bowl of the world for one more day. Instead of stopping her, I should be saying, name them as you wish. Love the things you name. Better this world with your words laid lightly upon it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen Schofield. I am delighted to invite our Northampton Youth Poet Laureate, Rio Santos, to come to the podium next. Rio Santos began their inaugural term as Youth Poet Laureate of Northampton in 2021. Rio is in the 9th grade at Northampton High School. Northampton is only the 3rd city in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to have a Youth Poet Laureate. In that role, Rio is charged with promoting poetry in the Northampton community through projects, readings, and events. Rio Santos.
So sometimes I consider how time affects us in ways we do not know. Tomorrow is a thought, yesterday a memory, but the concept of now is just incomprehensible, really. So I listen to the ticking of the clock and wonder if we're just in some endless chase to catch up with time. This poem is called Wait. The equation for acceleration, velocity, c, the volume of the wind being beat aside by a bird's wings as it lands on a branch, and c, the tension in a rabbit's legs as it jumps off the ground. Over time, c, the ring of a clock tower's bell disturbing the air at the exact same moment an athlete somewhere wins a race. Here's to a swiftly tilting planet, a quickly melting candle, a speedy recovery, a soon being thwarted by a now.
Thank you, Rio Santos. Thank you. We would now like to recognize mayors who have served Northampton in years past and are present here today. Please stand when I call your name. Harry Chapman, 1978 to 1979. David Narkowitz, 2011 to 2021. And I believe those are the mayors present today. And now we would like to recognize the elected officials here with us today. Senator Joe Comerford. And Representative Lindsay Sabadosa. It is now my joy and my honor to introduce Mayor Gina Louise Shara. Mayor Shara served Northampton for 4 terms as a city councilor, first as Ward 4 city councilor and then at large. In 2017, her city council colleagues unanimously elected her as vice president of the council. And 2 years later, they unanimously elevated her to council president. On the council, Mayor Shara chaired the Committee on Finance and was the vice chair of the Committee on Legislative Matters. She also chaired the Committee on Community Resources, was vice chair of the Transportation and Parking Commission, and served on many other city committees and commissions. While serving on the city council, Mayor Shara had a full-time day job, which was both demanding and fulfilling. She was, until just weeks ago, the communications manager for Pathlight, the parent organization for several programs, including Whole Children, Milestones, Autism Connections, and Family Empowerment. Mayor Shara says that she has loved Northampton since her years at Smith College and returned to settle here because she wanted to start her family in Northampton. She lives with her husband and their 2 daughters, one a 7th grader at JFK Middle School and the other a 4th grader at Bridge Street School. Mayor Shara, in preparation for today, I went around the city and asked people to describe you and your leadership style in just a word or 2. Anticipating this moment at your inauguration, I wanted you to hear how constituents describe you when asked. Now, without editing and without any names attached, these are some of the words that describe you, shared by citizens of Northampton. Compassionate human being, visionary, committed, devoted, expansive, grounded, diligent, trustworthy, kind, warm, accessible, determined, hardworking, steadfast, courageous, lovingly tough, enthusiastic, passionate about public service, thoughtful, empathic, a role model for my daughters, good listener, responsive, brilliant, uniting, smart, heartfelt, dedicated to the city, respectful, mom, inclusive, progressive, down to earth, vivacious, welcoming, detail-oriented, quick-witted, but patient, never condescending, tireless, and I mean tireless, policy wonk with charisma, shows up and stays till the end of the meeting no matter how late, leads with compassion and curiosity. And one person simply said, "We are so lucky." Mayor Gina Louise, you got this, and you got us. You won the race decisively. We have confidence in you. We know that as mayor, you will experience hard days, probably hard weeks, we hope not hard months. We know that the usually wonderful residents of Northampton can, on occasion, be a teeny weeny bit cranky. So when your dear constituents are grumpy, remember the words said about you that I just read aloud. And to make sure that you do not forget, I wrote down all the words on this sheet and had it laminated. Slip this in your desk drawer, and when the going gets tough, read this and be fortified. You got this, my dear, and you got us. I want you to picture that we have our hands on your back, all 28,561 of us. We got our hands on your back. We are cheering you on. You will be a wildly successful mayor. Mayor Gina Louise Shara.
Oh my goodness, Andrea. Whew, it's a little bit hard to get one's composure after that. That was so beautiful. Thank you. Good morning and Happy New Year. Thank you, Reverend Evazian, Susu Minong, Reverend Ives, Jenny Fleming Ives, Rabbi David, City Clerk Pam Powers, Northampton Poet Laureate Karen Schofield, Northampton Youth Poet Laureate Rio Santos. Thank you all for your wonderful contributions to this event. We are honored by your words, your poetry, and your reflections. Thank you to the Mayor's Office staff who have helped me immensely during this transition and who embraced my vision for the ceremony, made it possible, and rolled with the changes as they became necessary. And a special thank you to Northampton Health Director Meredith O'Leary and her staff for working tirelessly these many months of the pandemic and amidst this horrific surge for putting together the protocols to allow the show to go on today in this beautiful historic theater. Thank you to Deborah J. Anthony and the staff and board of the Academy of Music for opening the theater for this event. For 130 years, the Academy of Music has been at the cultural center of Northampton and has hosted some of the most celebrated performers of its time. Its history is rich and interwoven with Northampton's, as it holds the distinction of being the first municipally owned theater in the nation. It is an honor to stand on this stage with the Tuttle scenic backdrop behind us, depicting Northampton's past as we look forward. Welcome to Senator Comerford, Representative Sabadosa, my fellow elected officials, and our dear, dedicated guests, and all of you joining us remotely. Thank you all for being part of this wonderful, democratic tradition. I know that not as many people as we would like could be in attendance today, but whether you are here in the Academy or streaming live at home, you are all part of our community, part of what makes our local democracy strong. I want to thank my dedicated team and the many volunteers who worked on my campaign and supported me to get to today. It was an extraordinary team effort, and I share this with you. Thank you to the people of Northampton, Florence, and Leeds for giving me the great privilege of addressing you as the 45th mayor of the city of Northampton. I want to recognize our former mayors, especially those here today, Mayor Chapman and Mayor Narkowitz. Thank you for all of your years of hard work and all you have done to make Northampton the city it is today. I am very aware that I stand here on the shoulders of the giants of Northampton leadership that came before me. Mayor Narkowitz, I want to honor your service for the last 10 years as mayor, actually 10 years as mayor and 4 months as acting mayor. Also your 6 years on the city council, 2 as council president, and your service on city committees and commissions before then. Mayor Narkowitz's dedication and love for the city is undeniable, and we owe him our gratitude for so many advances, including stewarding our modern charter, creating fiscal stability for the city, projects like a redesigned and greener Pulaski Park, defining and working towards our energy and sustainability goals, and for making us a leader with a different kind of green, legalized cannabis, and his purchase of perhaps the most famous chocolate bar since Willy Wonka's. There are so many other accomplishments and attributes I could highlight, but I especially want to thank him for his steady and compassionate leadership through one of the biggest and sustained challenges we have faced these last almost 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you for all you have done and given and sacrificed. Congratulations to all of you who were just sworn into office. For some, like Forbes Library Trustee Russ Carrier, and Smith Vocational and Agricultural High School Trustee Michael Kaline, and my own colleague, City Councilor Marianne Labarge. This marks another term in their long and dedicated careers serving the city. For many of you today marks the very beginning of your service to our city. I'm sorry we cannot fully celebrate this occasion in the manner in which it deserves. I know how hard we all worked to get to this moment. Just know that I celebrate you, and I am deeply grateful for the commitment you have made to the city and the schools of Northampton and your community. And I thank our family and friends who are here to witness it. Special thanks to my family, my sisters, sister-in-law, and my brother and mother-in-law who are here today. And as Jenny Fleming Ives did, I remember my parents who are no longer with us, but would be front and center if they were. And to my amazing husband, who is my biggest cheerleader, and without his support and passionate interest in this work, I couldn't possibly do this. And my 2 very special girls, Alasni and Simone, who are such good sports about sharing their mom. Thank you, girls, for supporting my dreams and goals, and know that I will always, always do the same for you. Today, I leave the City Council and relinquish the gavel as City Council President. But what doesn't change is that I still view the councilors as colleagues and partners. I'm looking forward to working with this new council on our many challenges and exciting initiatives, and ask for their support as well as their critical eye as we move forward. As a devoted Northampton public school parent, I'm excited and know that I will be stretched and challenged in new ways by my role as chair of the school committee and on the board of trustees for the Smith Vocational and Agricultural High School. Working together with my new colleagues, I know we can do great things to support our students, teachers, and staff and we will continue to meet the challenges the pandemic has created, as well as the other pressures on this most important public service of educating and caring for the social and emotional well-being of the students of Northampton. And I'm proud to be part of a municipal government of dedicated public servants who keep the gears of our city turning, some of whom are on call 24 hours a day and doing work behind the scenes that is critical to the smooth working of our city and its services. Their professionalism and commitment are of the highest level, and I am humbled to lead them as mayor. You know, when I graduated in 1996 from Smith College, if you had told me that in 25 years I would be sworn in as mayor of Northampton, I probably would have arched a very 90s eyebrow and said something like, yeah, as if. Not because I didn't love Northampton. For my time at Smith, I absolutely did, but because it wasn't a vision that I had for myself. I had other plans, ones of big systemic change and tackling root causes of injustice. And I pursued them in various ways in the decade after I graduated, working on Democratic political campaigns, working for the ACLU in reproductive justice, and getting a graduate degree in sociology to better understand social stratification. My graduate work brought me back to Northampton when I was working on a National Science Foundation study examining gender and race in engineering education. My alma mater's new engineering program, the first to graduate an all-women class of engineers, was one of the subjects of the study. Coming back here regularly for research, I fell in love with Northampton all over again, and my partner and I decided to take the leap and move here to set down roots. Then, in 2007, my dear friend, Reverend Ives, asked me to help with a big project. The ceiling of the sanctuary collapsed at First Churches, where Peter was the longtime pastor. This is not only a church, a historic building, and a downtown landmark. As Peter said before, it is the central meeting house and community space, and has served as such for a very long time. In its recent history, it has hosted many weekly group meetings, events, vigils, performances, political town halls, and part of the building is currently serving as an emergency shelter during the pandemic. Reverend Ives asked if I could help lead the $2 million capital campaign to restore the meeting house and save the building. Taking on that role, connecting with the community and downtown businesses, and seeing the results of that work every time I was downtown helped me appreciate the change we can make in our own community when we work together. It helped me broaden my understanding of where fundamental change can happen and where it is felt most directly by people. That experience, along with other community work and activism around local issues, led me to run for city council and ultimately brought me here today. But when I look at First Churches still standing and serving the community, I am always reminded that you don't need to be an elected official to contribute to your community. As the residents of Northampton have an amazing track record of being engaged and contributing to the city. What makes Northampton special is that time and time again, we step up. We do our part. So many people routinely volunteer, contribute, and take responsibility for our city. Throughout this horrible pandemic, we have not lost sight of our values. If anything, this time has pushed us to do more and helped us define what is important. It should be affordable to live here in Northampton. It should be affordable to stay here. There should be no barriers to entry. Our downtowns and our open spaces should be welcoming and accessible to all. Our schools should have the resources to educate all children. Everyone should feel that they can safely and equitably access our city services. We can be expansive in our acknowledgement of each other and work to broaden representation, and we can be respectful and kind towards each other in the process. There are some resources that are finite or constrained, and we need to work towards equity in their distribution. But there are other resources which are infinite, like compassion, understanding, and a desire to do better. In the past couple of years, despite the pandemic, and with the robust input of people in every corner of the city and beyond, we kept our city moving forward and strove to do better. After the recommendations of the Northampton Policing Review Commission, we made the decision to establish a new City Department of Community Care to create a civilian, unarmed response to human service crisis calls so that every call for help can be met with an appropriate response. We had a thorough community discussion about how to best redesign Main Street so that it is safer, more sustainable, and more open and inviting to all members of our community, and can draw people to our fabulous businesses and restaurants. After in-depth conversations, including with our houseless community, we dedicated funds and provided support for a new community resilience hub, which will be a safe and comfortable day center and central connection point providing services and resources for our houseless and vulnerable community members, including during climate change-related emergencies. And we are working hard to find a location that will best serve the community. We have set a goal of municipal net carbon neutrality by 2030 and citywide carbon neutrality by 2050. And during the course of last year's campaign, we began a conversation on how to accelerate the timetable and fully transition away from fossil fuels. And we voted in overwhelming numbers to take the next step towards establishing a municipal broadband network, which would make the internet more affordable, reliable, and accessible to residents and businesses and help attract new growth to Northampton. We have more to do on all of these fronts. I am grateful for the work that has brought us here, and as mayor, I am committed to fulfilling the goals of these initiatives. But this is not the work of just one person or just within City Hall. These have been and will continue to be community initiatives, and I will continue to seek your input and contributions. Another important task ahead of us is deciding how to best distribute and invest federal funds from the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA. For decades, American cities have struggled with declining support from the federal government. So this is a refreshing change, and I thank President Biden and the Democrats in Congress who enacted this sorely needed legislation. But it's also just a one-time infusion of funds. And with the way things are going in Washington, we can't expect more from where that came from. We must use these funds wisely and in ways that help soften the losses and the struggles of this time. We still need to maintain the fiscal stability plan that has been in place since 2013, thanks to the overwhelming support of Northampton voters that year and in 2020. I am prepared to keep the community apprised of the status of the Fiscal Stability Stabilization Fund and to have thorough and thoughtful community discussions on how to maintain our services and further advance our progressive goals. A previous occupant of the office I now hold, the 16th mayor of Northampton, 111 years ago, was Calvin Coolidge. Actually, before he was mayor of Northampton, he was a one-term city councilor, and a few years later, the only election he lost in his entire career, and he held many, many offices, was for Northampton School Committee. So that is something some of you have up on him. Politically speaking, I'd say most of us have little in common with Coolidge, but he did give a notable speech a few years after he was mayor, in which he said, quote, "Have faith in Massachusetts. In some unimportant detail, some other states may surpass her, but in the general results, there is no place on earth where the people secure in a larger measure the blessings of organized government, and nowhere can those functions more properly be termed self-government," end quote. If I may borrow a little from my predecessor, have faith in Northampton. I know that I do. There is no place I know of where the people do more to make democracy work and do more for each other or care more about their city and its responsibility to the larger world. So let's go forward and let's do some great things together for this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Shara. Many of us have marched through the streets in Northampton and elsewhere following the lead of young activists chanting, "Tell me what democracy looks like." Well, this is what democracy looks like. I want to say thank you to all of our speakers today. We so appreciate your words and your wisdom. And thank you to all those who put together today's program, especially Annie Lesko and Alan Wolf. Thank you for helping me prepare. You both are wonderful. To our elected officials, we trust that you will lead with both grace and courage. We also hope that your conscience is disturbed should you fail to hear the voices of those on the margins of power and influence in our community. We believe you will care for the most vulnerable in our city, and thereby you will be caring for us all. Thank you for your leadership, your love for our city, and the investment of time you will devote to your work on our behalf. And thank you, Mayor Shara, for running, winning, leading, teaching, helping, supporting, learning, listening, guiding, and caring. You do all those things well. And now, for you, a little story from the book Teaching Your Children About God by Rabbi David Walp. There was a woman who stood before God. The woman's heart was breaking from the pain, suffering, and injustice in the world. She climbed a hill, shook her fists at the heavens, and cried out, "Dear God, look at all the suffering, the anguish and distress in your world. Why don't you send help?" Then the heavens opened, and the woman heard a voice. "I did send help. I sent you." Bless you. And now to close, Rabbi Justin David will offer our benediction. Rabbi Justin David has served as the rabbi of Congregation B'nai Israel in Northampton for 20 years. In 2018, he was awarded the Human Rights Hero Award by TRUA, the Rabbinic Call for Human Rights. Rabbi David is the author of Longing, Jewish Meditations on a Hidden God. Rabbi David.
Thank you, Andrea. Good morning, everyone. Mayor Shara and elected officials. Today is a day to appreciate the dimensions of the oaths you've taken today, speckled by words like solemnity and faithfulness. And those words underline that what you step into today, the roles that you take on, are really a sacred trust. And I'd like to begin just by holding up the collective wisdom and the poetry of Rio Santos and Karen Schofield, and the wisdom of everyone who's spoken before me, and the great service of those who've come before us today. And to say, as Andrea so eloquently did just a moment ago, that all this collective wisdom and service and love and principle reflects the vibrancy of our democracy here in Northampton. And I think, as it's January 3rd, I think we all understand and appreciate how vibrant democracy is not to be taken for granted, but to be celebrated, especially as it rests in our fragile hands. And so my job today is much less lofty and much more humble than your jobs today. My job today is to offer a benediction. And I know what that word means because both of my sons studied Latin at JFK Middle School and then later at Northampton High School. And a benediction is simply a good word, and so I'll try to leave you with a good word. And as a precedent, I look to the rabbis of the Talmud, that 20-something compendium of Jewish law and story, just as Reverend Andrea Avasian just shared, that came into being about 1,500 years ago. And it was said that the rabbis of the Talmud, when they would take leave of each other, they would offer each other a benediction. And they would do so in the context of sharing a bit of law, because it's in law that we find the intersection of compassion and righteousness and justice. And so I went into the charter of the city of Northampton, and I found some words that actually, I thought, quite evocative. This is what it says, and this is in the section of the powers of the city. It says, "The powers of the city of Northampton under this charter are to be construed liberally in favor of the city, and the specific mention of any particular power is not intended to limit the general powers of the city as stated in this section." And so what does this mean? Well, I think it means a couple of things. One is that the city is literally empowered to do anything that will collectively lift all of us up. But there's a deeper question. Who is the city? The city is all of us. It's the person who's 99 years old and who's lived all her life on family property. And the city is the person who just moved here to take a job or go to school. The city are people who serve in hospitals, doctors, nurses, people who make food, people who clean up the streets and clean up after us. It's people who love living here. And it's people who, however much they love living here, want all of us to be better. And so all of you, Mayor Shara and elected officials who've taken on these positions of weighty responsibility, you hold the trust of all of us, of all the people who are our city, those we know about and those who walk in the shadows. And so here's my benediction, my few good words. May we all together hold that trust as sacred. May we find great joy and inspiration and bring our diverse voices together as one. And may we each experience the blessing of knowing how our lives are bound up with each other's lives. As Moses says to Joshua at the end of the book of Deuteronomy as he's passing over the reins of leadership, I say to all of you, Chazak ve'amatz. May you find strength in the ongoing journey to seek resolve. Thank you, everyone.
This concludes our ceremony.
This production is co-produced by Northampton Open Media, your local public media. We provide resources to all voices in the community to create their own content. Membership is free, classes are free, equipment is free, but our existence is under threat. If you believe in what we do and want to keep us sustainable, do so on Patreon for as little as a few dollars a month. Look for Northampton Open Media on Patreon or go to our website at northamptonopenmedia.org.